She watched him break, then heal himself, and realized she loved a monster. It started with a man, completely naked, bleeding, and very annoyed, breaking out of an alien medical facility with nothing but a scalpel in one hand and a fire extinguisher in the other. Captain Jace Morgan had been through worse. He'd survived the jungles of Titan IV, a plasma storm over Phobos, and one very aggressive bartender on Europa. But this, being locked in an alien lab, stripped of his clothes and poked by blue-skinned scientists who kept murmuring things like, unusually dense musculature, and this can't be average human size? Yeah, this was a new low. The walls of the Threnari facility glowed with soft green light, soothing by design. But to Jace it was just another reminder he was far from home. The guards, tall, smooth-skinned aliens with 3 eyes and laser spears, had underestimated their subject. They didn't think a human, drugged and restrained, could dislocate his shoulder just to slip out of a bioscan harness. Their mistake. He'd grabbed a scalpel, took out a guard and snagged a fire extinguisher for good measure. Not the best weapon, but satisfying when swung hard enough. Now he sprinted down corridors, dodging scanner beams, his bare feet slapping the metal floors. He was bleeding from a shallow cut on his thigh, but adrenaline made it easy to ignore. He turned a corner, expecting another hallway or an ambush. Instead, he stumbled into a lab and stopped. Standing in front of a large, humming console was a tall female Threnari, blue-skinned, silver-eyed, and utterly stunned. She wore a research suit so tight it looked painted on, and her white hair was braided down her back like a waterfall of starlight. Her hands froze mid-scan, and her eyes slowly dropped from his face, downward. Jace was very aware of his nakedness, but something about the way her jaw fell open made him forget his embarrassment. She blinked, once, twice. Then her scanner fell from her hand, clattering on the floor. "By the stars, is that normal?" she whispered. Jace looked down, shrugged and quipped. "For humans? More or less. You folks really don't know what you've been messing with, do you?" She looked like she was trying to reboot her brain. Her name tag read, Dr. Zena Veltal, Senior Xenogeneticist. He'd never seen a Threnari so rattled. "You're injured?" she managed, finally breaking eye contact with his lower half. "And quite robust." "Flattered," Jace said, stepping into the lab and locking the door behind him. "Also being hunted, so unless you want 3-eyed lizard men barging in here and shooting holes through your pretty lab, I suggest we make ourselves scarce." I should alert security," she said, but didn't move. Her voice lacked conviction. He limped closer, tilting his head. "You don't want to do that." "Why not?" He pointed at the scanner on the floor. "Because you're a scientist and you just saw something that doesn't fit your data." Her silver eyes met his. There was a long pause, and then she knelt to pick up the scanner with trembling hands. She hesitated before holding it out toward him again. "For science," she said softly. "For science," he agreed, grinning. She scanned him. The device beeped rapidly. Her brow furrowed as she read the data. Muscle regeneration at 4.3 times expected speed. Hormonal output elevated even in rest state. And the mating organ is statistically improbable. "Statistically impressive, you mean?" Jace muttered, smirking. She flushed. Actually flushed. Her cheeks turned a faint violet, the Threnari version of a blush. "This shouldn't be possible," she whispered. "Your biology, your species, humans, are different." "Yeah, we get that a lot," he said, leaning closer. "Listen, Doc, I'm not here to ruin your research. I just want out. Somewhere quiet. Somewhere I can stop bleeding. Maybe a towel. I have quarters off record. We can hide there," she said before she could stop herself. He blinked. "That easy?" She looked at him. "For some reason, I don't want you to get hurt." He chuckled, low and warm. "You just met me. I'm a scientist," she said, "but I'm not blind." Another alert echoed down the hallway. Footsteps, voices. They were getting close. "Decision time," Jace said. "They get in here, and we both go down. Or we vanish." She nodded and tapped a panel. A hidden door slid open beside the lab. "Come on." Jace stepped through, brushing past her as he did. Her eyes flicked down again, just for a second. She shook her head and followed. Behind them, the lab door hissed open, but they were already gone. The hidden corridor was narrow and dim, lit only by faint pulses in the walls, organic tech breathing softly like the hallway itself was alive. Jace followed close behind Zaina, watching the sway of her hips as she led the way with purpose. The adrenaline was fading now, replaced by dull pain in his ribs, and the slow realization that he was still completely naked. "Not exactly how I imagined my first visit to an alien's private room," he muttered. Zaina didn't turn around, but her ears twitched slightly, a Threnari sign of amusement, if he remembered his diplomatic training correctly. They reached a sealed hatch. She tapped a code into a palm-sized panel, and it slid open with a sigh. Inside was a surprisingly cozy chamber, rounded and softly lit. Crystalline shelves held research scrolls, preserved plants in stasis bubbles, and a single low bed with folded silver blankets. He stepped in, and the hatch closed behind them, muffling the sounds of the facility. "Sit," she said. "You're still bleeding." Jace collapsed onto the bed with a groan. "That's the third time today someone's seen my insides. Can't say I'm thrilled about it." Zaina crossed the room, retrieving a small orb from a drawer. It shimmered with blue light. "This will disinfect your wounds. Don't move." He didn't. He watched her instead. There was something different about her now. Her usual crisp, clinical tone was softer. Her hands hovered above his injuries, but her eyes kept straying lower. She caught herself and looked up sharply as if embarrassed. "Sorry," she said. "It's difficult to maintain objectivity." Jace tilted his head. "That a Threnari thing?" "No, that's a you thing." He smirked. So I'm distracting?" "Annoying," she corrected quickly. "But yes, distracting." The orb buzzed, sending soothing warmth into his side. His muscles relaxed. Her fingers brushed against his skin as she adjusted the orb's position. The touch was gentle, curious. She lingered longer than necessary. "You really weren't supposed to survive that sedation protocol," she said quietly, "or break a guard's arm, or outrun them naked while improvising weapons out of fire safety equipment." Jace shrugged. "Human bodies aren't just strong, they're stubborn." She met his gaze. "It's more than that. Your cells are regenerating in real time. Your hormone levels rise with pain. It's as if your body rewards suffering. Yeah, we call that being alive." "No," she said, her tone intensifying. "You adapt faster than anything I've seen. That down there," she gestured vaguely. "It's not just larger, it's active, constantly responsive, like it's reading stimuli. No wonder the guild was obsessed." Jace leaned back, one eyebrow raised. "Zaina, did you just say you've been studying for research?" she snapped, her face flushing violet again. "And you crashed into my lab. Technically, you interrupted my study." He chuckled, resting his weight on one elbow. "Then maybe I should let you keep studying. I can be a very cooperative test subject." Her eyes lingered on his chest. She opened her mouth to reply, then thought better of it. Instead, she stood and walked to the small kitchenette in the corner. "I assume you eat?" she asked. "Only when I'm not being dissected." She produced a nutrient pack and handed it over. Jace tore it open, sniffed it, and winced. "Smells like burned seaweed and regret." "Flavored for Threnari palate," she said with a smirk. "Your taste buds may need retraining." He took a bite, chewed slowly, and grimaced. "Yup," regret confirmed. Zaina sat across from him, the tension easing slightly, but her eyes kept returning to him, hungry not just with curiosity, but something else, something warmer. Conflicted. "I've never," she started, then hesitated. "Never what?" She looked at him, eyes glowing faintly in the low light. "Never wanted to touch a subject." That silenced him for a moment. He met her gaze. Well, I'm not just a subject. No, you're something else entirely. The room fell quiet, not awkward, but charged, like something was building, in the air. The heat between them was undeniable now. Her breathing had changed. His pulse matched hers faster than before. Then, softly, nervously, she stood again and walked toward him. She stopped inches away, watching him carefully, her fingers twitching slightly. For science, she murmured. Jace didn't move. What exactly are we studying? Her hand reached out, brushed against his shoulder. Human emotional bonding, she said, her voice almost a whisper. And physical compatibility. Jace grinned, his voice dropping low. Well then, doctor, I suggest a thorough examination. She leaned in slowly, hesitantly, until their foreheads touched, her breath brushing his lips. You're dangerous, she whispered. I get that a lot. Then she kissed him. Not hard, not desperate, but curious, intense, scientific and personal, all at once. And in that moment, Jace realized something terrifying. He wasn't just hiding in her room anymore. He was falling into something far more risky and far more intimate. Her lips tasted like starlight, cool at first, then quickly warming against his. Jace didn't move at first, surprised by the gentleness of it. Not clinical, not calculated. This wasn't the kiss of a scientist testing theories. This was curiosity, turned into hunger. Zaina pulled back slightly, blinking as if unsure what she had just done. Her breathing was uneven, her fingers trembling where they hovered near his jawline. That was not planned, she said, her voice rougher than before. Jace reached up, his hand brushing the curve of her waist where her skin-tight suit clung, like melted glass. Want me to log it in your research notes? She smiled at that, a real one this time, soft and strange, like she was still learning how to do it. You mock everything. It's how humans flirt, he said with a wink. Also how we avoid freaking out when stunning alien scientists start kissing us in locked rooms. Zaina stepped back, as if needing air, then sat down beside him on the bed. I've cataloged over 63 species, observed 17 mating rituals, compared thousands of biological traits, but I've never... She trailed off. Felt like this? He offered. She looked at him, then nodded slowly. My people don't bond. Not like this. We reproduce. We replicate. It's efficient, but your species, you connect. Emotionally, physically. It's not just function, it's feeling. He leaned closer. And you like that? I don't know what I like, she said honestly, brushing white hair behind her pointed ear. But my body keeps pulling toward yours like gravity. And every time I touch you, something inside me shifts. Jace looked down at his bare chest, then at her gloved hand still resting near his. Well, Doc, maybe we should test that reaction. Her eyes flicked to his. You're not afraid? I've survived Threnari guards, weird alien nutrition paste, and your scanner, poking places I didn't know could be scanned, he said with a grin. I can handle you. She exhaled, almost a laugh, then stood again. Slowly, silently, her suit responded to her thoughts. Its surface shimmered, then retracted across her torso, flowing down like liquid until the cool blue of her bare skin was exposed to the warm air of the room. Jace blinked. Okay, that's cheating. We don't have suits like that. This material is bonded to my nervous system, she said, voice low and unsteady. It responds to need. And right now, he said, eyes sweeping across her curves. You're saying the need is me? She stepped close between his legs now. It's not rational. It's not part of any experiment. But yes, it's you. He reached up, his hands resting on her waist, feeling her body react, literally warming under his touch. You sure? Because once I start, I don't stop halfway for a peer-reviewed study. I don't want data, she whispered. I want experience. They met in a rush of heat and hunger. No more hesitation, no more science. Her skin glowed faintly as their bodies pressed together, cool meeting warm, human instinct answering alien curiosity. The bed's soft membrane adjusted automatically, forming around their bodies in perfect symmetry. Her breath hitched when he kissed her neck, and her bioluminescence pulsed in response, casting a soft glow on the walls. She gasped when he moved lower, her body arching under him. "This isn't possible," she moaned. Jace chuckled against her skin. "Welcome to human biology." For what felt like hours, they explored each other, her trembling hands mapping, muscles she hadn't studied before, his fingers tracing glowing lines that danced across her skin like lightning. With every kiss, every whisper, something deeper formed between them. It wasn't just pleasure, it was connection, raw and real. Later, as they lay tangled in the cooling air, Zaina's head resting on his chest, she spoke softly. "I can feel something happening inside me. My heart rate's changed. My skin's more sensitive. Even my neural patterns, they're shifting." Jace stroked her back gently. "So, I'm breaking your science again?" She smiled into his skin. "You're rewriting it." Then the room shook, not gently. A deep, vibrating rumble that sent crystal shelves clattering and lights flickering. They sat up, instincts flaring. Zaina rushed to her console. No. The guild's tracking signal. It's active. They found us." Jace was already pulling on a spare set of clothes she'd given him. Threnari robes, loose, flowing, and about 2 sizes too small. He looked like a gladiator on vacation. "Options?" he asked. "They'll breach the outer corridor in less than 3 minutes," she said, her voice returning to that professional edge, but he could still hear the tremble under it. Jace stepped behind her, placed a hand on her shoulder. "Then we run." Zaina looked up at him. "They'll take you, Jace. Dissect you. Use your DNA to create hybrid soldiers. You're too valuable." He leaned in close. "Then we don't let them catch me." Her hand found his. "I'm not letting you go alone." He smiled. "You're starting to sound very human." And as the first explosion rocked the doorframe, Jace and Zaina ran, together, into the unknown, not just as fugitive and scientist, but as something new, something bonded, something dangerous. The corridor behind them erupted in blue flame just as the hatch sealed shut. Jace grabbed Zaina's hand and pulled her forward through the maintenance tunnels, narrow, dark, and pulsing with soft alien light. "You sure this leads out?" he asked between breaths. "No," she said, panting. "But I'd rather die in a duct with you than in a lab tank with them." He chuckled despite the situation. "Well, you're definitely picking up our survival humor." She smiled, but it was strained. The explosion had fried most of the facility's internal systems. Lights were flickering, walls groaning, and the floor occasionally jolted with impact tremors. The guild was tearing the place apart to find them. They reached a sealed hatch marked in Threnari glyphs. She pressed her palm to it. Nothing. "Security. Override's offline," she hissed. Jace leaned beside her, examining the lock. "Step back." She blinked. "You're not going to..." He kicked it. Hard. Once. Twice. Then the panel shattered open and the door creaked free. "Human engineering," he said with a grin. "We call it the brute force method." They slipped through and emerged onto a catwalk overlooking an ancient sub-level. Dust hung in the air like ghost mist, and long dead machines blinked with intermittent power. Zaina stopped short. "This is pre-guild architecture, old forbidden," Jace raised a brow. "Forbidden's kinda my thing." They moved through the ruins, dodging collapsed beams and forgotten tech. As they reached a wide chamber, a flickering blue light caught Jace's eye. A console. Still powered. Zaina approached it carefully, brushing her fingers across the surface. The console lit up, brighter now. Then, it responded to her presence and, strangely, his. A soft hum vibrated through the chamber. She looked up, stunned. "This isn't Thranari tech," she said. "It's precursor." Jace blinked. "The ancient builders? The ones who seeded half the galaxy?" She nodded. "This tech was believed lost, but it's responding to you." He frowned. "Why me?" She didn't answer right away. Instead, she scanned him, again, but this time her hand trembled. Her lips parted. "Jace," she whispered, "your DNA, it's mutating. Not randomly. Evolving. Faster than anything I've ever seen." He looked at his hand. Nothing looked different, but he felt different. Stronger, sharper, more aware. "You think it's because of us?" Her eyes locked onto his. "You're acting as a catalyst, our intimacy. It's triggered something. My physiology's changing too. I've got human hormone markers now. Oxytocin, adrenaline. I'm adapting to you." Jace stepped closer, resting his hands on her waist. "Then we're not just compatible. We're contagious." She shivered at his touch. "This changes everything. If the Guild finds out, they'll harvest your DNA, clone it, weaponize it, turn your biology into a product." "Not if we turn the tables first," he said. He glanced at the console. "What if we could activate this place, use precursor tech to protect ourselves? Maybe even broadcast a genetic suppression wave, disable any cloning attempts?" Zaina stared at him. "You just made that up, didn't you?" He smirked. "I'm not a scientist. I'm a problem solver. You've got the brain. I've got the samples." Her cheeks darkened violet again. "You're impossible." Yet here we are. Their kiss this time was urgent. Not soft like before, but hungry. She wrapped her arms around him, the glow from the console intensifying. As their bodies pressed together, the chamber responded. Energy flared. Crystalline roots rose from the ground, circling them in a soft, shimmering cocoon. "What's happening?" Jace asked, panting. "The system's syncing with us," Zaina said, breathless. "Your presence is acting like a master key." "Because I'm human?" "No," she said, her fingers tracing his chest. "Because you're bonded. Emotionally. Physically. That's what the precursors believed in. Connection is power, and we just proved it." They stood there, locked in each other's arms, while the cocoon of energy pulsed brighter, humming with new purpose. Somewhere above them, the Guild continued tearing through the facility. But down here, in the ancient chamber of forgotten technology, something older than the Guild had just awakened, and it had chosen them. Jace looked at Zaina and smiled. "So, should I take my pants off again? Or is the machine done syncing?" She laughed, real and full, for the first time since they met. "No," she said, pulling him close again. "Now you keep them on. I'm not done corrupting your DNA yet." And as the power of the chamber surged around them, Captain Jace Morgan and Dr. Zaina Veltal realized something terrifying and wonderful. They weren't just changing each other. They were about to change the entire galaxy. The precursor chamber came alive. Rings of light spiraled above their heads like some ancient halo. Pulses of soft blue radiated from the central crystal, echoing Jace's heartbeat. The cocoon of energy around him and Zaina vibrated with strange music, sound and light mixing like emotion turned physical. Zaina stepped back, her eyes wide as glowing patterns began crawling up Jace's arms like living tattoos. They weren't ink, they were information, data written directly into his skin. His breathing deepened, his pupils dilated, and his body began to hum. Literally, like every cell had been tuned to a higher frequency. "I feel electric," Jace muttered, flexing his fingers. "Like I just drank a lightning bolt." Zaina scanned him quickly. "Your nervous system is rewriting itself in real time. Your reflexes, strength, even cognition, it's all increasing. The system's not just syncing with you, it's upgrading you." Jace gave a lopsided grin. "Guess I'm finally getting that alien gym membership." But Zaina wasn't smiling. She looked shaken. "You weren't supposed to be this compatible." she whispered. No one is. The precursors left this tech locked for a reason. It was never meant for mass use. They believed only the rarest connections, emotional, physical, soul deep, could unlock it. Jace stepped closer. So we're rare? She looked up into his eyes. No, Jace, we're impossible. A moment passed between them. Heavy. Sacred. The air shimmered as he touched her face, the markings on his skin glowing brighter when her fingers curled around his wrist. Even her skin had changed. Soft, yes, but pulsing with new color. Her body had begun adapting to him too. Their bond wasn't one-sided. It was a circuit. He pulled her in again, this time not out of passion or urgency, but something deeper. Connection, trust, purpose. Their lips met and the crystal flared in response. Behind them, the console shifted, a panel opened, revealing a long-forgotten weapon. Not a gun or bomb, but a projection system. Organic tech fused with living memory. A voice filled the chamber. Ancient, genderless, calm. Interface complete. Primary link established. Biological, symbiosis confirmed. Activating Phase 2, Defense Protocol, Soulbound Mode. Zaina looked at Jace. Did it just say soulbound? I didn't agree to marriage, Jace said, grinning, but I'm open to negotiation. Suddenly, the console projected a map, a three-dimensional rendering of the Threnari facility, and above it, the enemy. 5 ships, guild hunters, armed, watching, waiting. They know where we are, Zaina said, voice cold again. Professional. They're waiting to strike. Jace clenched his fists. Let 'em try. She turned to him, eyes full of fire now. No, we go to them. He raised an eyebrow. You're suggesting we attack the guild? She walked over to the crystal, placed her palm on its surface, and let out a slow breath. No. We demonstrate. With a low rumble, the floor beneath them split open and rose. A hidden platform ascended with glowing tendrils, lifting them back toward the surface. The air shifted. Pressure increased. The ancient structure wasn't just a chamber, it was a vessel. Is this? Jace whispered. Zaina nodded. A precursor ship, hidden beneath the guild's research complex this whole time, locked until someone like you came along. The ship broke the surface. Blinding sunlight poured into the main chamber as the ceiling opened like a flower blooming. The massive crystalline vessel, silent for centuries, rose from the ruins on anti-grav thrusters that hummed like ancient engines of a forgotten god. Outside, guild ships scrambled, sirens wailed, orders were shouted. But it was already too late. Jace and Zaina stood on the ship's open deck, glowing with the power of a bond no one else could understand. This isn't just defense, Zaina said. It's a message. To the galaxy? Jace asked. She nodded. No more cloning humans. No more using us like lab rats. We're not just adaptable. We're transformative. When we connect, we don't just change ourselves. We change everything. Jace cracked his neck and stepped to the edge of the platform. Let's give them a demonstration. The guild opened fire. Too late. The ship absorbed every blast. Energy turned harmless light. And then, with a pulse of blue across the sky, it projected a massive wave. It didn't destroy. It didn't burn. It simply unlocked. Every Threnari ship on the battlefield blinked into silence. Pilots stared at their hands, eyes wide, as bioluminescent trails began appearing on their own bodies. Human hormone traces, emotional bursts, cellular awakening. The precursor ship wasn't a weapon, it was a mirror. It made others feel what Jace and Zaina had felt. Raw connection, intimacy, vulnerability, and strength. Below them, guild ships powered. Down Zaina reached for Jace's hand, trembling again, but not with fear, with awe. We didn't just escape, Jace, we started something. He looked at her, eyes soft but sure. You said this was impossible. She smiled. Maybe that's what humans do best. And as they kissed again, fire meeting lightning, science meeting instinct, The precursor ship ascended through the clouds, leaving behind a world forever changed, and ahead, a galaxy waiting for something real, something human. 3 weeks later, the sky over New Threnari Prime was a shade of gold it had never shown before. No one knew exactly why. Some said it was a side effect of the precursor ship's awakening. Others whispered it was caused by the soul bond pulse Jace and Zaina had released, light bending to the frequency of two lives fully connected. The scientists had theories, but the people just called it the human dawn. Up in orbit, aboard the fully awakened precursor vessel now named Unity, Jace Morgan stood on a balcony of living crystal, shirtless as usual, watching the stars with a quiet smile. The patterns that had spread across his skin were no longer glowing aggressively. They'd settled, like tattoos etched by the universe itself. Every line told a story, a connection. Behind him, he heard the soft padding of bare feet. Zaina rapped, her arms around his waist, pressing her head to his back. "It's done," she said, voice warm against his skin. He turned to her. Her appearance had changed too. Her once icy silver eyes now held golden streaks. Her blue skin shimmered slightly where it touched his. Her hair had grown longer, looser, as if even her follicles had relaxed around him. And her body, well, let's just say Threnari evolution had taken very well to human influence. "Transmission complete?" he asked, brushing a finger across her jaw. She nodded. "Across 7 systems. The message is clear. Humanity isn't to be dissected, copied, or cloned. Your DNA isn't a product, it's a partnership. And anyone who wants to understand it has to earn it the way I did." He smirked. Pinned against a console in a glowing lab while the universe lit up around us, her lips curled. Strictly for research purposes, they laughed together, the kind of laugh only people in love and in trouble ever seem to share. "Any news from the guild?" he asked. "They've gone quiet," she said. "Some of the older members resigned. A few asked to speak with you." "With me?" Jace frowned. She shrugged. "They want to understand. Not just your strength, but what made it possible. What makes you so different." He looked out the window again, toward Earth in the distance. "It's not just the muscles, or the bones, or..." He grinned and raised an eyebrow. "The other bits." Zaina elbowed him, gently. "Then what is it?" He turned to her, serious now. "It's what we feel, what we choose to feel. We're not just adaptable, we're emotional. We suffer, we love, we burn, we heal, and we share that pain and joy. That's what makes us strong. That's why we bond." Zaina's expression softened. "I never believed in soulmates before you." "Me neither," he said, "until I watched a beautiful blue alien stare at me naked like I was breaking physics." She swatted his chest but didn't move away. Her hand slid down his side, resting where their bond pulse was strongest. "You did more than break physics," she whispered. "You rewrote it." He took her hand and placed it against his heart. "What now?" She didn't answer with words. Instead, she guided his palm to her abdomen. For a moment, Jace just stood there confused. Then he felt it. A flicker, a second heartbeat. His eyes snapped to hers. She nodded, tears shimmering in her golden-streaked eyes. Half human, half Threnari. All miracle. Jace didn't speak. Couldn't. He just pulled her in and held her tighter than he ever had. "I didn't think I could evolve anymore," he whispered. "But this just changed everything." They stayed that way for a long moment. Two beings from opposite worlds now shaping a new one together. Outside the window, the stars continued their quiet dance. Inside, 2 hearts, 3 now, beat, in perfect rhythm. Later that night, as Unity drifted silently through space, its systems quietly humming with life, Jace and Zaina lay tangled beneath soft sheets of living silk. The room responded to their mood, dimming the lights, warming the air, sinking to the pulse of love between them. "You think the galaxy's ready for our kid?" Jace asked, trailing his fingers along the curve of her hip. Zaina smiled, her voice low and sleepy. No, but they'll adapt. Like us? Exactly like us. And with that, Jace kissed her belly, whispered something only she heard, and closed his eyes with her tucked safely in his arms. Humanity had once been seen as weak, volatile, even primitive. Now, it was the key to the future, and it all started with a scalpel, a scanner, and a naked man too stubborn to stay in his cage. The end? Not even close. Just the beginning. A year later, the galaxy looked very different. The Guild no longer hunted human DNA. In fact, they invited humans to teach. Teach, not submit, about empathy, connection, and something no lab could ever manufacture. Intimacy that changed the soul. The Unity, the massive precursor ship now serving as a diplomatic vessel, became more than a ship. It became a symbol, a moving monument to what happened when emotion met evolution. And at the center of it all, still sharing a bed and a bond stronger than physics, were Jace Morgan and Dr. Zaina Veltal. They weren't just legends, they were parents. Their child, a boy named Kale, was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. He had Jace's dark, mischievous eyes and Zena's luminous skin that shimmered with bioluminescent emotion. He aged twice as fast as humans in his early years, but the doctors believed he would plateau at adulthood, healthy, powerful, and according to Zaina, very stubborn already. At 6 months, he had already hacked the ship's lights by giggling too hard. Jace swore it was an accident. Zaina wasn't so sure. Tonight, the Unity hovered above Earth's moon, its decks lined with diplomats, scientists, and ordinary citizens from across the stars. The ship's pulse glowed with a soft blue, gentle, warm, and human. Inside the observation dome, Jace stood at the window, Kale on his shoulders, giggling as his father pointed at constellations. "See that one?" Jace said, tapping the glass. "That's Orion. He had a belt too, like mine, only less impressive." Kale babbled in response, tugging gently on his father's hair. Behind them, Zaina watched with her arms crossed, a smirk tugging at her lips. "If you teach him outdated Earth mythology and bad jokes, we're going to have a problem." "I'm shaping his cultural identity," Jace replied. "You're shaping his comedy routine." He turned to her. Same thing. Zaina walked over, wrapping her arms around Jace's waist and resting her chin on his shoulder, eyes watching their son's glowing fingers reach for the stars. "Do you realize," she whispered, "that he carries both of us in every cell? That his body holds the first true blend of Threnari and human genetics? You didn't just give me love, Jace. You gave our species a future." Jace leaned back against her. "I just wanted to kiss the pretty scientist who fainted when she saw my—" "Don't finish that sentence in front of the baby," she warned. "Muscular resilience," he finished, smug. She sighed and kissed his cheek. "Somehow I still love you. Because of my strength? No. My bravery? No. My impressive, I know, I love you," she said, cutting him off with a finger pressed to his lips. "Because you never gave up. Not on yourself, not on me. Not even when the universe told you to run." He looked at her then, eyes soft. And in that quiet, intimate moment, with their child glowing faintly between them and the galaxy finally calm beyond the glass, they knew this was more than survival. It was legacy. Jace stepped away and gently lifted Kale into Zaina's arms. The child's little fingers curled around her suit and his skin glowed brighter the moment he touched her. She smiled, kissed his head, and looked at Jace. "Where do we go now?" she asked. He looked at the stars, endless, uncharted, full of mysteries and maybe a few more ancient ruins. "Anywhere we want," he said. "We've got the ship, the science, and the sex appeal." She laughed. "That's not a flight plan. It's better. It's hope." And with a soft hum, the Unity began to move again, across stars, through unknown sectors, guided not by coordinates, but by curiosity, courage, and love. Because the most powerful force in the galaxy was never war. It was a human who refused to be a lab rat, and an alien scientist who finally understood what it meant to feel. The galaxy wouldn't be the same, and thank the stars for that. The end.